Welcome everyone to a special presentation at Story Trading. This is a look back to the May 27th, 2020 presentation on WTRH. So it'll just be myself, Ben Rabizadeh, presenting today without an audience. This is a presentation I gave back on May 27th to our VIP community. So before we get into that presentation, I want to read out this disclaimer. Story Trading is not an investment advisor, and I am not an investment advisor. Investing in securities involves significant risk of loss. Now, what Story Trading is, before we get into the presentation, we're a investor community which we aim to beat Wall Street insiders at their own game through crowdsourced collaboration through the four pillars, which we're going to talk about: fundamentals, catalyst, sentiment, and technicals, in order to understand the story behind the trade. And we also do these Zoom events for our VIP community to get an extra edge. These are interviews with management, presentations by some of our top stock pickers, events like that. So now we have what are called VIP picks, which is what Waitr Holdings was on back in May. So actually, if you go to our website and click performance, you can see all of our VIP picks. This is our very second pick, May 25th. There were two picks on that day. So May 25th, I had presented Waitr Holdings. The price was just $234. So again, if you go to storytrading.com and click on performance, you can track how our presentations are doing. You can track how return by presenter over here. Okay. So now, these are the same exact slides I used back on May 27th, and I want to present it today as a look back to that event. It's not perfectly centered there since it was our second presentation ever. It's an old template, but the thesis that was presented back then, I think, has played out and continues to be true today, which is why I've held my core position since that time. So now, how do we look at what is a story trade, and how do we look at investments from the perspective of a story? So at Story Trading, we've identified four pillars: fundamentals, sentiment, catalysts, and technicals. And it basically goes like this: that all price action you see on a chart has a reason for it, right? Rather than being completely random and meaningless, there's actually a reason why you see those big spikes and troughs. And some people who are pure fundamentalists say, oh, it's just BS. None of this makes any sense. It's just random. So what we're saying at Story Trading is there's a story that can be explained behind the chaos of a price chart. And you can only begin to try to understand that story if you consider all of these perspectives: fundamentals, sentiment, catalysts, and technicals. This is the theory that we have, is all of the information that goes into the market is one of these four categories, aside from some market inefficiency events such as brokerages being down, or some sort of market liquidation event that's very short-lived. Those kind of structurally inefficient things which happen in the market, which are very rare. Everything else can be explained through the lens of these four pillars. And if you understand and evaluate these four pillars, you have a much better chance of understanding the price action and therefore making better decisions and being able to predict price action better based on events as they unfold. So that's the idea behind story trading, and that's what a story trade is. So as my very first pick to the community, it was, again, Waitr Holdings. Again, this is back on May 25th. So I divided all these slides based on those four pillars. So the first thing, the most important pillar, is fundamentals. So now if we look at fundamentals, we can see here that Waitr app is right below the big boys, right? It's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 ahead of it on this chart, right? So first we look at what they do. Food delivery. There's a website. You can go check it out. But really what was important, which was the catalyst for the stock starting to move up, was what happened on May 7th. And we'll throw a chart in here. So crosshair, May 7th. Now, I think there was also some news there, but May 7th was a catalyst when I really became aware of it. So May 7th, there was a business update where they became profitable. Q1 adjusted EBITDA, 3.7 million versus negative 9.9 million in the prior year. February 2020 was the first profitable month ever. And this was pre-COVID impact. Very, very important, okay? This is why I've been holding the stock. This company they were on the way to fundamental changes, on the way to becoming profitable before COVID happened, okay? So April alone, of course, COVID helped. They reached adjusted EBITDA of over 4 million. Lookster Capital, 10% stake. And the valuation was just 5 times of the EBITDA back in April. Other thing now we look at fundamentals is what's their service area is. So a lot of people didn't know, oh, I never heard of Waitr. Like, what is that? That must be a junk penny stock. They're actually a leader in their geographical area. So if you go look on their website, now this is old. I think they've expanded into certain areas, but you could do a Google word search over here and see like their hotspots visually. Now back then, one of the things I looked at is how are they growing, right? So we saw there's a lot of open positions that were happening. A lot of people were working over there, right? It's not like a little penny stock, which is what was priced for before its move this year. I look at the app and how often they're updating the app, and they were very often on top of that product, updating the app regularly. Looking at the reviews and the response from the company, and they're responding to people back then. All this is very important. One of the things I really like looking at in consumer-facing companies are app rankings. I look at it every single morning right now. Now, it can cost a lot of money to get full app data. I don't pay for it now. You can get a 3-month look back free from App Annie if you download the App Annie app. I think the data is better on the app than the website. It may not even be available on the website. Maybe app only for the free 3-month look. But anyway, so I've been tracking this daily, and I've done this successfully with other companies, including Smith Micro and MoviePass, which ended up being a bust. But in both those cases, I was able to almost pretty much predict revenue in advance based on how app rankings were going. So what I can tell you is I haven't done this analysis. This is a moving average that I calculated on my own spreadsheet. I haven't updated it, but looking at the line chart that's available on App Annie, I can tell you that Q4, I'm not expecting huge blowout in numbers coming up in the report this coming Monday. It's good. It's stable. There's some commentary from Mr. Reister. I'm gonna on StockTwits. I'm gonna show you his profile soon. Important guy to know for Waitr. But Q1, the app rankings are definitely rising. January, February, even going into March, they're pretty often hitting new highs recently. So the average app ranking for Q1, I think, is going to be appreciably higher than the average app ranking in Q4. So I'm expecting an awesome Q1, which won't be reported for another probably 6 weeks or so after this report. But that's something I looked at back then to show that, hey, things are growing, things are getting better. That's the fundamental pillar. Then we have the sentiment pillar. For me, sentiment's very important because sentiment drives that ratio, right? Whether it's a PE multiple or a revenue ratio. So when pure fundamental investors are looking at whether it's a discounted cash flow analysis or whatever they're looking at, and they say, hey, the stock should be trading at X. Why is it trading at 1.2X or 0.8X? The answer is usually sentiment. And sentiment are things that have to do with trust and management, general bullishness or bearishness on a particular sector, things like that, things that can't be easily quantified. Now, what we had back then was what I identified as a long-term positive sentiment. So COVID tailwinds increased food delivery, but also the way I viewed this was that this would have a permanent change in behavior, that even after COVID is gone, people will get used to delivery. That was my thesis then. I'm sticking with it, which is why I've held the stock all the way through with all the vaccines and everything coming out. So what else did we have here? Yep, likely have continuing post-COVID. So that's really the sentiment play here. Now the stock has been under pressure, and I think it's because of this sentiment. This little drop here, I think I've been viewing as an opportunity. I've been increasing my position because I think the market is viewing this as a one-time benefit. But I think that delivery is here to stay and it's growing. More people are being exposed to the Waitr platform and will continue using it afterwards. So that was long-term sentiment. All right, we also looked at the short-term sentiment back then. So catalysts. Man, there's lots of stuff happening. You know what? Now's a good time, I think, to go to my web browser here to show you Mr. Miyagi, Reister. I really recommend you go to stocktwits.com and follow Reister. This guy is a due diligence king on Waitr Holdings. So take a look at that. Also, when it comes to fundamentals and fundamental analysis, there's a gentleman by the name of Mark Gomes in our group who has been very helpful in terms of understanding that. One of the important things about story trading is, as a community, when we collaborate with each other, everyone has a strength and a weakness, right? So some people may be great at technical, some people may be great at catalysts, and some people are awesome at gauging sentiment, right? And then you have someone like Mark Gomes, who is awesome at fundamentals, and he has his own colleagues that are very steeped in the practice of fundamentals that can help figure out what is the fair value of this company from a fundamental perspective. So Money Mark Gomes, you go to youtube.com, type in Mark Gomes. He'll do these videos every once in a while. And in some of these recent ones, he has talked about Waitr Holdings and from a fundamental point of view, what the company might be worth. So I encourage you to look at that. So now going back, that's why I brought up the catalyst, because Mr. Reister over at StockTwits is totally steeped in all of them. We got earnings on Monday, Deutsche Bank conference on Tuesday. I'll tell you this, if you look at the news releases here in 2021, February 22nd, I believe it was February 19th. I think this was a Monday. And the Thursday or Friday prior to the Monday, Reister was on StockTwits saying, I believe next week the company is going to start doing a PR blitz, right? And running up into earnings and in preparation to pump up their stock price in order to ultimately get bought out. And he was exactly right about that so far. Look at this news blitz, culminating so far with the cannabis news story last night. And again, let's see what's to come Monday earnings and Tuesday Deutsche Bank event. All right, so he's an awesome person to follow for Catalyst. Technicals back then, I loved it. It was above the moving averages. Let's see if I can give a quick technical update for today. So what are we looking at? Let's zoom in a little bit. A little hard to see what's going on. Well, it had a little trouble. Market is tough. Last night it hit 425 in after hours. A lot of us thought that, hey, this is now a breakout, but it failed to really get over the 20 DMA this morning. So we'll have to see. I think at this point, the technicals has not broken out because it's not above these moving averages, but with the catalyst coming next week, we'll see. Now, I expect, and I think Mr. Reister, Mr. Miyagi over at StockTwits also believes that this quarter, Q4, will not be some huge beat. I'm saying that based on the app rankings I've been looking at. Maybe he has some other information he's looking at. But Q1, I think, will be a very, very nice quarter. So we're both aligned on that. So we'll have to see what type of catalyst the company maybe announces or how they frame their growth, their forward-looking comments about how Q1 is going. I think the stock may react to that. But a lot also depends on how the market is doing. Okay. So those are the 4 pillars. So, in conclusion, this is what I wrote back on May 25th. The fundamentals are strong, especially if you believe COVID is a catalyst for permanent change, which I do. Also, the company has been growing. So it's not like this is a mature company that, based on macroeconomic conditions, they may go up or down. They're taking market share now, and they're also increasing the average order volume per customer. They're throwing on all these extra features, all these extra products that they're selling, the in-app, in-purchase dining experience. There's a lot of things they're doing, and now they got the cannabis thing last night. So sentiment was mixed because the vaccine stuff was coming out. I would say it's even negative right now, sentiment, because I think the stock is down here because people think that this COVID is over and they view Waitr Holdings as like a one-time beneficiary. And I think that's a completely false analysis. And we'll see if sentiment changes once they go out there and, we'll see with the news and everything in terms of a buyout. Ultimately, I think that's where this is headed, what a lot of people think. So catalysts, there's been a ton of them. And we talked about the technicals. So that was the presentation. I wanted to bring that back as a look back because I'm still long the stock. I think the thesis back then is still in play. It's still a story trade, and I'm not going to sell a story trade until the story changes, and the story hasn't changed. Now, I don't use technical stops myself. I'm not day trading, although I may trade around the core here and there. But, the story is exactly what it was back then, and I'm continuing to hold it. And we'll see what happens in the coming days and the coming quarter. I really think we wait for Q1 for the big explosion. But now, in terms of our events, we have VIP events where people present their presentation ideas. I think I showed that to you on the spreadsheet of the VIP picks. You can see what events are coming up by just clicking on events over, and that's the wrong link. So let's go to storytrading.com, and you can click on events. And over here, you'll see some of our events are free. Sunday night, we have Richard Chu. You have to be a VIP member. He's a very well-known analyst in the healthcare digital space. So he'll be presenting to our VIP community this Sunday night. Next Wednesday, we're going to have a free event from Mark Gomes, the gentleman I mentioned before, on asset allocation and portfolio management strategies. You can just go in here and you'll see a registration link to our Zoom right over there. And then we have a new pick again for our VIP members on March 14th. So that's our upcoming schedule. We have events constantly. If you go over to our YouTube and subscribe, we started posting our events just about 2 weeks ago. So you can see all of our events from the beginning of the year. We, again, don't have the historical events for our old VIP picks, but perhaps we'll do some look back recordings like I did today here with Waitr Holdings. So again, follow us on YouTube, twitter.com/storytrading. And if you want to become a VIP member, just click on VIP upgrade. Space is limited because we are on WhatsApp right now. So we have about 140 members. We're going to max out at 250 members for now. So if you want to get in, it's only $30 a month as opposed to the $99 a month we plan to charge soon one day. And that's what we got for you for Waitr Holdings. If you're long the stock, good luck. Just be careful out there. It's a rough market. I recommend never going on margin. Be careful with options, and good luck to everyone. Take care.